In the first frames, we see a man without signs of life. His wife, Joyce Smith, can't believe she's become a widow. The woman does not respond to the policeman's questions. Soon the funeral took place, with only 2 people attending, including Joyce. At home, the woman put her husband's things away. Later, she met with a bank employee who said that Fred Smith had an unpaid loan. Joyce knew nothing about it. Now a debt of $6,000 falls on her. Joyce has no idea what to do in this situation. The woman's only company is her beloved cat. Joyce is crying all the time. When the neighbor greets her, she doesn't react. To distract herself from sad thoughts, Joyce went for a walk. She was spotted by a group of teenagers. The main bully, Wayne, started making dirty hints to Joyce, so she took his skateboard and threw it in the trash. Later, Joyce went to the library to borrow her favorite novel again. She had read it many times before. Suddenly Joyce's attention was drawn to an ad offering rooms for rent. For the first time in a long time, Joyce felt truly happy. Now she can earn money. The first clients didn't take long to arrive. Joyce was very nervous before the meeting. A young couple, Sarah and Edward, appeared at the door. Joyce kindly invited them inside and showed them the room. Edward seemed to not like the place. Later, Joyce baked cookies to please the clients. Edward asked her not to come in without knocking, but Joyce made it clear that she would do what she wanted in her own home. Joyce also advised Edward not to eat more than 1 cookie since he was overweight. The next morning, Joyce noticed that Sarah was upset about something. Edward wasn't home because he went to the city. The girl asked the homeowner about her husband. Joyce said that Fred passed away a month ago, but she had come to terms with it. Sarah suggested that Joyce go for a walk together. She gladly agreed and gave details of what had happened to her husband. On that day, he was fixing something on the roof. The couple didn't have children over the years of their marriage. Sarah revealed that she is a writer and had come to this small town to find inspiration for a new book. The girl also admitted that she had problems in her relationship with Edward. The past few years have been tough for Sarah. She lost her parents and now feels lonely. At home, Joyce confided to her new friend that she would give anything to experience the joy of motherhood. Soon Edward arrived and told his girlfriend that he found a better place. Sarah didn't want to leave, but her boyfriend insisted. Joyce assured her that everything was fine, but the money had to be returned. She read her favorite novel to escape from reality. At the store, Joyce found out that she had no money left on her card. She barely had enough for cat food. On the street, Wayne and his gang blocked her way. Joyce begged them to let her go, but the bullies continued their taunts. At some point Joyce kissed Wayne, who certainly didn't expect such a turn of events. The woman like crazy clung to the bully. A passerby man tried to help her, but Joyce screamed in tears that no one would touch her. On the same day, she received a letter from Sarah thanking her for the pleasant communication. The girl also said that she had broken up with Edward. In response, Joyce wrote that her life is full of bright impressions, and the business is thriving. Of course, it was a lie. Later, in the library Joyce noticed a handsome guy who was looking for a room to stay for a while. Joyce immediately offered him her apartment. The guy, who introduced himself as Robert, agreed. Joyce showed the new client around the house. In the evening she sat in front of the mirror, tidying up her appearance. Joyce is convinced that meeting Robert is fate because he looks exactly like the hero of her favorite novel. In the morning, the woman prepared a delicious breakfast for him. The guy didn't notice how Joyce licked his spoon before serving him coffee. Later, Joyce went to Robert's room and used his deodorant, cologne, and toothbrush. When Robert entered, Joyce pretended to be changing the sheets. She noticed that the guy was taking something out of his box, which he locked with a key. After learning that Robert likes football, Joyce installed a large TV in the house on the same day. She lied to the worker that it was for her son, who would live here with his bride. They supposedly are expecting a baby. Robert felt awkward that the homeowner was so gracious to him. Of course, he agreed to her offer to watch football together. Joyce did everything to please her guest. Suddenly Wayne and his friends started throwing raw eggs at the window. The bullies did not expect that a tough guy would come out of Mrs. Smith's house. He taught Wayne a lesson, advising him not to show up here again. Looking out the window, Joyce was happy that the beloved stood up for her. At night, Joyce dreamed of throwing out Fred's things, saying that there was now a real man in the house. Waking up, Joyce made her dream a reality, shouting at her deceased husband that he would no longer ruin her life. She took his things to the trash. Hearing the sound of a motor, Joyce hid. Robert arrived on his motorcycle and was talking to someone on the phone, then threw something in the trash. It turned out to be a check from a local bar. Joyce felt like the heroine of the novel. She continued to correspond with Sarah, telling her about Robert, with whom they were now supposedly a couple. One day Joyce asked Robert to help her in the bathroom. The woman said she couldn't reach the towel. Robert was embarrassed by the situation. The next day, Joyce dressed up like a young girl and asked Robert to drive her to the library. The guy refused on the pretext that he had only one helmet. However, in her next letter to Sarah, Joyce wrote that she rode with Robert on his motorcycle today and it was very romantic. Joyce continued to dress provocatively to get Robert's attention. One day she received a call from Sarah, who asked for permission to stay for a few nights. Joyce didn't mind, as she now had another free room. Soon Sarah appeared at the doorstep. Joyce confessed to the friend that her late husband was quite cruel. Sarah felt sorry to hear that. Seeing Robert, the girl was confused. She did not expect that Robert was a young man. Sarah suggested that Joyce go somewhere together. Agreeing, Joyce brought her friend to Robert's favorite bar, lying that they often come here together. While Sarah went for a drink, Joyce asked the waitress if she knew Robert. The waitress replied that he always left here with different girls every time. The entire remaining evening, Joyce was upset. The women returned home late at night. Sarah was trying to write her book. The next day, when Sarah wasn't in the room, Joyce checked her laptop, but didn't get a chance to read anything because Sarah returned. Later, Sarah knocked on Robert's door and asked if he was okay. The girl felt silly and left almost immediately. At night, she couldn't sleep and went to the kitchen, where she saw Robert, who had recently come home. He had a bruise on his face. Robert confessed that he had gotten into a fight. Sarah offered to help him. Passion arose between them right there. They had no idea that Joyce was spying on them, unable to believe that the friend had betrayed her. The next morning during breakfast, Joyce intentionally spilled juice on Sarah. The girl decided to talk frankly with the homeowner, but Joyce called her a fallen woman with no dignity. Sarah realized that something strange was happening here. She decided to ask the neighbor about Joyce. It turns out that Gladys had known her for 30 years. Joyce watched from the window, while Gladys told Sarah that Fred was categorically against having children. Joyce had suffered from this her whole life. At home, Joyce questioned Sarah about the details of her conversation with the neighbor. Joyce also claimed that Gladys had tried to steal Fred from her. Sarah didn't want to stay here anymore, and apologizing to Joyce for everything, left the house. Immediately after that, Joyce visited Gladys, who could hardly move on her own. Her nurse came twice a day. Joyce, who was deliberately friendly, suggested that Gladys forget old grudges. Gladys was glad and did not at all expect Joyce to take a pillow and attack her. When Robert arrived, he saw an ambulance. Gladys' body was being carried out of the house. Joyce was crying bitterly, talking to a policeman. Robert comforted and hugged Joyce, who pretended to be deeply shaken by the demise of her old friend. No one suspected Joyce of this terrible crime. When Robert asked where Sarah had gone, Joyce lied that she had reconciled with her husband. The guy was very upset. Soon a courier came to the house with a package for Robert. Joyce accepted the package since Robert wasn't there. Joyce thought that as the homeowner she had every right to know what was in the box. But she didn't make it in time, because Robert caught her in his room. The guy expressed his displeasure about Joyce rummaging through his things and spying on him. Robert believes that she has some mental problems. Later, Joyce went to the doctor and lied that she couldn't sleep. The doctor prescribed sleeping pills to her. This was precisely what Joyce was counting on. Back home, she apologized to Robert for her behavior. She told the guy that he reminded her of the late son Tommy. That is why Joyce is so protective of Robert. It seems that the guy took it with understanding and agreed to have dinner with Joyce. He had no idea that she had put something in his drink. Of course, Robert fell asleep very quickly. The first thing Joyce did was to take his keys and open that very box. There was a package labeled as facial powder from Bolivia. Joyce didn't understand what it really meant and tasted the substance, then dragged Robert into the room. Joyce believes that she deserves such a man. The woman told Robert that she belongs only to him. When Robert woke up in the morning, he felt strange. Joyce told him that he had drunk too much yesterday. Robert went to take a shower. At that moment someone rang the doorbell. The courier brought a letter for Robert. Joyce wanted to get it, but the guy suddenly appeared and took the package himself. After reading the letter, Robert was shocked. A few minutes later he told Joyce that he was leaving right now. Joyce intended to do everything to stop him. Robert already realized that she was a liar. In fact, Joyce had no son, and Sarah, from whom he received the letter, was not married. When Robert was distracted, Joyce attacked him with a frying pan and took his life, calling selfish. Joyce's dream of finding genuine love never came true. Later, Joyce read Sarah's letter and learned that she was pregnant. Now her child will be fatherless, and Sarah will be a single mother. Joyce fantasizes that if something happens to Sarah, she can take her child. The woman created a burial place in the garden. In Robert's box, Joyce found an envelope with money and immediately wrote to Sarah that she received an inheritance and decided to go on a trip. Joyce kindly offered Sarah to look after the house and finish her book here. Joyce packed up her belongings, telling her beloved cat that she would soon have a new mother, but not for long. Soon Sarah arrived. Despite everything, she was very happy to see Joyce. Sarah was very upset to learn from her friend that Robert left immediately after receiving some letter. A new tree now grows in the garden. Sarah doesn't even suspect that it's actually a grave. After saying goodbye to the girl, Joyce left. Later, Sarah discovered that the door to one of the rooms was locked. She doesn't know that it's a child's bedroom. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.